What a week in America's courts. Take a look at the stories and, more important, the people that touched our lives. Horrific new body cam video inside the Brian Kohberger murder scene. Overwhelming, gut-wrenching.
And she ran upstairs because she saw someone. That's what I'm pretty sure she said. Someone's here, and she screamed and just ran downstairs. And I called for her name, but I jumped up and locked my door because I was so scared. I heard someone in the bathroom, and I heard her crying, and I heard some guy say that you're gonna be okay, I'm gonna help you. And I kept calling her name, but she wasn't answering. And then I opened the door for a second, and I saw this guy, and he was not insanely tall, but he was wearing all black and like this mask that was just covering his forehead and his mouth. And I locked the door and I called, and I didn't know what to do.
This was at 4
a.m. Yes.
Okay.
To Sydney Summer joining me, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Sydney, what is probative about that body cam we just showed? We're learning a lot from every word. I remember I was in my room, I was trying to go to bed, I heard Kelly, which one is your room? She's describing whose room is where. And she says, all I heard her go upstairs like, okay, I'm going to go to sleep now. Kelly and the dog Murphy. What do you learn? What does this prove, Sydney?
Well, for me, so first we have to get in our minds that the entire time Dylan insists Kaylee went upstairs. Kaylee screamed. Kaylee ran down the stairs. And the officer even points this out later. He says to another officer, she somehow knows, she was somehow able to discern this was Kaylee. But we don't think that's actually true. So we have to think about the layout of the house. So Kaylee and Maddie were asleep upstairs. Xana's room was on the second floor where Dylan's room was. So the only thing that makes sense for somebody to have ran down those stairs is Xana, not Kaylee, not Maddie. So we have to get that in our heads as we're listening to Dylan's recollection of events. But it just proves to me that someone was there. These women are correct. Someone was in their house. So as far as we know, all they know is that Xana was found unconscious. But
Sid,
for them, this proves someone was there.
Hold on. You're saying someone was in the house. Sid, do you think at the time when we think Kelly was saying, hey, I'm going to go to bed, I'm going to go to sleep, do you think he was already in the house? Because now I believe that he was already in there waiting for them to go to sleep. I don't think that they all went to their beds and then he snuck in.
I agree with you. And we also learned later that Maddie was the last person to take Murphy out. So Maddie checks in with Dylan and Bethany one more time. Hey, I lost Murphy. I can't get him to come inside. Is he with either of y'all? She is looking for the dog. So again, this dog, who they described for weeks, was on edge before the murders, who was constantly going off into the woods and wouldn't come back when called, just acting very, very oddly, does the same thing this night when they're taking him out for the last time. So I'm kind of feeling like Kohberger was watching as they took the dog out for the very last time and maybe snuck in just behind them as they brought the dog in.
Did they tell you anything? They were dressed by like 4 in the main room.
This is one of the...
pretty much they were in the main room. I heard them dancing and laughing. Kaylee went upstairs and she screamed because someone was in the room and she ran downstairs. And I kept calling her name and she wouldn't answer. And then I saw the guy. I just locked the door and I ran downstairs, but we don't know what's going on.
It's just so much worse than the elected district attorney let on. Did you just hear? And we're going to play all this for you to hear and see for yourselves. But Joe Scott Morgan joining me. Joe Scott, did you hear what she said? Kelly went upstairs and started screaming, there's somebody in her room. That's a lot different than what we were told, like it was a silent night and all you could hear was a muffled whimper and I'm here to help you. This is a lot different.
Yeah, it gets really granular when you begin to see this and you suddenly realize the horror that all of these kids have experienced at that moment in time. You go back in time and there have been a lot of questions about, well, why didn't they call this in? Why didn't they call it? Why did they delay? Nancy, this almost looks like the fog of war when I see this, just stunned and just beyond belief. It goes back to an old statement I always make, always having to understand the abnormal in the context of the normal. This home that they lived in together, the space that they shared, has absolutely been rocked. They've discovered in-house that there is a massacre that has taken place. I don't know about you. I would probably be the same way. It rips you down to your absolute core.
Guys, I want to play the video. I want to see it and I hear it. I want to hear it. Listen.
Where's she at? Yep. Where's she at? Where's she at?
She's up closer. Yes.
Where at? Up here?
Up here. You got to call and let them know that someone, they're looking normal. I just came in checking here and you can write this down. And I checked this user is real, and I didn't check him yet.
Slow down. Just come here. There's two. Looks like fatalities.
Ghislaine Maxwell, are we going to believe her?
So you think he did not die by suicide, given all the things we just talked about?
I do not believe he died by suicide, no.
She denies there's a client list. She denies there was trafficking. She's denying every single thing.
Did you know of the existence of any such list?
There is no list. There is no list. There is no, I'm not aware of any blackmail. I never heard that. I never saw it, and I never imagined it. When all this nonsense took place, where this whole story with the picture and the this and the that and this, I believe that this whole thing was manufactured.
Lies, lies, lies. What are they hiding?
So the original statement that Brad Edwards makes, that's in the documents contemporaneously, is that it's pieces of paper that Alfredo has. It then morphs into something that Alfredo took, a book that Alfredo took from Epstein's computer, but there's no computer, I know, certainly not in 2005 when this was allegedly taken, that came out as a book. And then it morphed into, at the civil time of my civil cases, into a book that was taken from my computer. And then it morphed into the Southern District of New York as a combination list of mine and Epstein's. That is a metamorphosis through documents that you can trace.
What in the world is she trying to say? Joining me, Crime Stories investigative reporter Sydney Sumner. Here is Ghislaine Maxwell. Why they moved her to a cushy dormitory-style jail. It's not really even a jail. It's more like a camp. Is she trying to cover for Trump or cover for Clinton? I don't know. Maybe neither of those. But she's definitely trying to get a pardon. And here she's saying, there is no client list. There is no little black book. In other words, there are no Johns. That's what we call them on the street, Johns. So she's trying to explain the genesis of the little black book, the client list story. And she's talking about someone named Alfredo Rodriguez. And isn't that Epstein's butler? Yes, of course he had a butler. Explain what she's saying, Sydney Sumner.
Right. So here she's saying that the purported client list that everyone is freaking out about, wants to see, doesn't really exist, but to get Blanche up to speed on where exactly this rumor came from, she goes all the way back to 2009, when Epstein has just been criminally investigated the first time, and civil suits are now coming out against him. So Maxwell claims that this law firm that was a little bit shady took on a lot of these Epstein victim civil suit cases. And one of those attorneys was working with Epstein's butler to get evidence against him. So that's where Alfredo Rodriguez comes in. And so what this lawyer claimed to be a client list was really just an address book that the butler went through and apparently circled or marked people who were involved in this trafficking ring. So Maxwell gets through this long-winded explanation.
Yeah, what's wrong with that? Bottom line, boiling it down is that a previous civil lawyer went through an address book, a 500-person address book that oops, there's the Cuomos and the Kennedys on there. I doubt that they were visiting Lolita Island. So my point is, there are regular contacts in there, along with who many believe are clients, let me say in a nice way, clients. So there's a 500-person address book, and the butler who knew Epstein really well, who was there day to day, who saw who was coming and going, went through and marked the names of the men involved in the sex trafficking ring. Okay, sounds like evidence to me. So, first of all, Ghislaine Maxwell, in her effort to get a pardon, says there is no client list. To Dr. Bethany, she also said, wait for it, Dr. Bethany, that she only had sex with Epstein once. And then for a really long time, no, because of his heart condition.
I don't even know where to start with that one, Nancy. Okay, well, first of all, let's keep in mind the mindset of there are two types. There's the fixated and there's the regressed. The fixated only ever wants children, and then the regressed will sometimes choose adults, but under times of stress, they will gravitate towards children. Both types, Nancy, are incredibly childlike. Pedophiles are children themselves. That's why they are attracted to children. And that's why Andrew and Ghislaine Maxwell are lying, as Tisa Tell said it, like two little 6 or 7 year olds who snuck out to the party next door, and now they're covering up to their parents. They have a childlike mindset. What's scary, though, is that it's cloaked under all this money and sophistication and power and network of other people, so they pass as adults in society, but there's proclivities and the way they operate mentally are like children. And you know what they're not mentioning, Nancy? There's no fond or concerned or empathic recollection of the victims. If Ghislaine Maxwell would just say once, poor Virginia Jeffries, I can't believe, that she has gone through what she's gone through, or God rest her soul, or I hear she's no longer with us. There's not one empathic mention of the victims. It's as if the victims have been scrubbed off the face of the earth.
You missed this, Dr. Bethany. I spoke well over an hour to author Barry Levine, who has tracked billions of dollars of Epstein's and interviewed hundreds of people to figure this whole thing out. Ghislaine Maxwell actually said, hey, I'm going to throw this to Joe Scott Morgan. Ghislaine Maxwell actually said about the girl victims, they're just trash. All those girls are just trash. Where is 7-month-old baby Emmanuel?
They have searched the home, they have searched nearby fields, they have searched along the highways.
But when she woke up from the attack, the baby is gone. They refuse a polygraph. A witness says mom had that black eye before the attack. If he's alive, who has him? Is he being fed? Is he alive? Do we have a chance to save him? Are you sitting down, Tom Rawlings? Because you may need to lay down for this. Listen to this. Jackie dug this up for me. His former partners and spouses include, wait for it, everybody, Isabel Gonzalez, ex-wife, filed domestic violence protective order against him, also requesting protection for son Eli. So he was obviously abusing and beating on Eli. Vanessa Avina, 2018, they were both charged with felony child cruelty regarding what happened to the little baby girl I told you about. Rebecca Harrow, They are charged now with the murder of baby Emmanuel. So this is the third instance that we know of him beating on and forever paralyzing one child. And now baby Emmanuel is missing, and police believe the baby is dead. And Dubay wants me to go easy on the mom in this case. What about it, Rawlings?
Absolutely not. When you go into a situation, when you have a child with a man you know to be evil and violent like this man, and then you apparently cover up for the bad things he's done to your child, and you act like you create this scene. Oh, my child was kidnapped. Well, this is called being part of the problem, and she needs to suffer significant punishment as well. She cannot sit there and act like she's the victim. I'm sorry. It took two of them to create this child. It apparently took two of them to harm this child and then deceive the public and law enforcement about what one of them or both of them had done.
Well, Philip Dubay, in your zealous defense of mommy, I just want to remind you that she knew about the injuries to the baby's sister. Dr. Coyne, could you explain those injuries to Dubay before he launches his defense?
Sure. I mean, they reported at the hospital that she had a fracture of her skull. She also had hemorrhage within her brain and hemorrhage within the retina of both eyes. She also had fractures to the back of her ribs, both sides, as well as a fracture of her right lower leg bone. And so this is consistent with abusive trauma. It's almost similar to grabbing a child by the leg and slamming them into something, where you have impact trauma of the skull causing the fracture, the bleeding within the brain as well as within the eyes, and then sort of a twisting type injury of the leg, most likely when grabbing the child and using that appendage to sort of strike the child into something.
Dr. Coyne, explain to me how a baby, after a beating, loses sight, hearing, and the ability to walk.
Sure. Most likely due to the trauma to the brain and head. So for instance, if there was significant injury to the eye. So in other words, when you strike a child against something, the forces can actually tear or separate the layers of the retina of the eye, so that you can have direct injury to the eyes themselves. But you can also severely image the nerves, the optic nerves that allow us to see, that allow the eyes to communicate with the brain. In addition, the brain trauma itself, so our ability to walk, motor control is through our brain and spinal cord. And so this child also had cervical neck injury. So if there was injury to the nerves that travel to the spinal cord, injury to the parts of our brain that control our ability to move, then that can certainly prevent that child from walking or having difficulty walking as that child gets older. The same thing, our ears. So sound is produced in our ear or is received from our ears, but it's our brain that allows us to hear. It's the auditory processing centers in our brain.
A loving father and esteemed law professor is gunned down at his own home in his own vehicle.
We heard him looked in, the garage door was up, and I thought the gentleman was backing out, and I went back to my house, but he never backed out, and I came back over. He's not responding to that, but his head's kind of rolling around.
Okay, is he conscious?
Well, I can't tell.
He heard the snoring respirations. He's not talking, he's mumbling, he has no idea what happened, and he's bleeding out, and he's going into death as his blood seeps out of his body.
Where exactly is he? In the driver's seat?
In the driver's seat.
Is he in the garage or?
In the garage.
Okay.
Dan's murder, I was shell-shocked because here's a guy who didn't have any known enemies. Everybody cared deeply about educating future generations. And who would want to kill someone like that?
The suspect who ordered the hit, according to prosecutors, to murder her son-in-law because he would not let his children move 8 hours away to live by her. Wow, I wonder why. After trying to bribe him for $1 million, threatened to indoctrinate the boys in another religion, a plot unfolds. I haven't even gotten to all the wiretaps. You know what? You're going to totally wig when you hear this, but let's take it step by step because it can get complicated. Listen.
Charlie Adelson, brother of Wendy Adelson, uses his girlfriend, Catherine Magbanawa, to arrange a murder for hire using the father of her 2 children, Sigfredo Garcia, and his friend, Luis Rivera, to kill Dan Markel. The end result, that Wendy Adelson can move her 2 children to South Florida near her family. Exactly what happened when Dan Markel was killed.
What happened when you got to the driveway of Dan Markel?
Well, I pulled up right behind him, and Garcia jumped out and shot him.
How many times did Garcia shoot Mr. Markel?
Twice.
Cold blood. Cold blood. Gigi McKelvey joining us, investigative journalist, star of Pretty Lies and Alibis podcast. Gigi's been on the case from the very, very beginning. Gigi, cold blood. I mean, he just rattled it off. How many times did you shoot him? Twice. He doesn't care about the children. He doesn't care about Markel's family. Devastated family. Twice. Okay. Forget about that. Let me talk to you about the plot. Let me understand. Wendy Adelson, the mother of the children, the one that got the divorce, the lawyer, her. Wendy Adelson's brother, Charlie Adelson. And let me just tell everybody, this is great for the shrink to figure out. On his car tag, he paid for a vanity tag that said Maestro. Really? Okay. Isn't he basically a dentist? Okay. That said, he decides to intervene, and he gets his girlfriend, Catherine Magbanawa, to arrange a hit. And the hitmen are the father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia, and his friend, Luis Rivera. Okay, there is Catherine Magbanawa, and there she is again, and the father of her children, Sigfredo Garcia, and his buddy, Luis Rivera. Okay, tell me how that whole thing went down, Gigi, and isn't it quite the coincidence? Isn't it odd that everybody around Wendy Adelson is dropping like flies? Now her mother is on trial, but she is unscathed, neither a person of interest or a suspect. Tell me how this whole thing went down with the girlfriend, with Charlie Adelson's girlfriend. Man, she must have been a piece of work, because when I think of hitman, I don't think, hey, I'll ask my husband to get some of his low-life friends to pull off a hit. You know, they're not all nuns and priests and virgins, Gigi. Birds of a feather. You know the rest. So he thinks his girlfriend can arrange a murder, and guess what she does?
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what happened. And it was pretty soon after they started seeing each other at a Halloween party where they're getting in their car to leave. And he just asked her, hey, do you know anybody that would hurt somebody? And she said yes and left it there. And it wasn't until later on when the relocation was a big issue with Donna, and we're going to hear that on these wiretap calls as this trial progresses. It was getting fever pitch. I don't think Charlie cared where Wendy and the boys lived. He's a playboy making millions of dollars every year, but it was important to Donna. And as time went on and Donna got more frantic and more obsessed with the location issue, he finally went to her and said, we need to get this done. That is when she went to her baby daddy, Sigfredo Garcia, and proposed, would you like to make some money to take care of somebody? And he said yes. After that, he got his childhood friend, Luis Rivera, who was the leader of the Miami sector of the Latin Kings, to come along as a ride-along, essentially. And that's where the plot started.
So who's Dr. Boobner? Boobner. Who? Dave Mack, who's Dr. Boobner? I noticed that you, Dave Mack, keep talking about Dr. Boobner. And I'm wondering why you just love to say Boobner. Who is that?
Dr. Boobner is a Miami doctor who is a breast augmentation specialist. And he refers to himself first as Dr. Boobner. And then, of course, his patients are so happy with the results that they, in turn, call him Dr. Boobner. And
okay, great. What does he have to do with this case?
He's like the missing link in the Dan Markel murder mystery, if you want to call it that. The prosecutors that were investigating the case, they actually were able to tie in Dr. Boobner between Catherine Magbanua and Charlie Adelson, and that he did Catherine Magbanua's breast augmentation surgery as part of the payment she got from Charlie Adelson for helping to
my
pull
stars,
together.
Wait, stop, please, speak no more. Are you hearing this, Faddis? I assume, Faddis, you've seen the series of movies called the Apple Dumpling Gang. Okay, it's got Don Knotts and others in it. Yeah, you need to see that.
Sounds
it's
vaguely
a Disney
familiar.
movie. I showed it to the children, but I think the title says it all. So the go-between, Catherine Magbanua, who set up the hit for Charlie Adelson for his mother, the monster-in-law, got paid with a breast lift, implants. I'm so happy right now because that's not hard to trace, right? He paid her with knee breasts, A and B.
Right, Nancy. But the key there is Charlie paid her. Charlie paid her, not Donna. It's not Donna fronting the bill for these new breasts. At least that hasn't been proven in court yet. And so what we're talking about is certainly this, cohort of folks who are conspiring with one another. And then we have Donna Adelson, who, according to the defense, is just kind of a protective grandma, protective mother.
The one that tried the $1 million bribe. Okay, wait. Did you not hear? You need to turn up your hearing aids. Did you not hear Gigi McKelvey just say Charlie Adelson didn't give a flying fig where those boys lived? He only did it because his mother drove him insane to do it. He doesn't care. He didn't have a dog in that fight, no skin in the game. He did it because his mother would not leave him alone. He didn't care about the boys. An amazing breakthrough in the search for Nikki Chang. A smoking gun cracks the case of the missing mom wide open. But there has been an arrest. Nikki's case is a homicide investigation.
There were several assaults on Nikki.
A brutal assault on Nikki prior to her disappearing, prior to her Chevy being found abandoned on a remote country road.
She thought she was going to die.
Where is Nikki? Kay, what went through your mind when you found out Tyler McCain has finally been arrested? Now, first of all, before you tell me that, can you please tell everybody about how he's got the girlfriend slung up in his house?
We've seen many posts about potential girlfriends at the house. That speaks pretty loudly to, you're not expecting your wife back.
It kind of reminds me of Scott Peterson, Kay, because Lacey's body had not been found yet, her pregnant body. And he had already tried to, there he is in all of his splendor and glory. He had already tried to sell the house where she lived. They lived together, expecting their first child. He tried to sell her car and ordered the porn channel. Immediately turned the baby's room into a storage room. So obviously he did not expect her to walk through the front door. Why? Because he knew she was dead. Why? Because he killed her. Now, if you can recall, Kay or Chloe, how quickly after Nikki goes missing, your sister, your lookalike sister, did he move the first missed thing into their house?
It was within, I think, like a week or 2 weeks. I just remember there was a lot of chatter online, and a lot of people actually.
I'm sorry. Wait. I think my earplug, my IFB must not be working. Did you say a week? 1 week?
Yeah.
Continue.
And there were pictures of a female at his home as well too, so that just confirmed the story even more.
You know, to you, Chloe, how did you guys find out that Nikki had only been missing a week before he moved a girlfriend in? Not the girlfriend, but a girlfriend. There's been a long parade of them.
Sorry, Nancy, did you say how did we find out?
Yes.
Yeah, it was posted online on, there was a few Justice for Nikki pages up on Facebook, and it was posted online, and then there were also pictures as well too.
Wait, are you telling me he posted photos of the other woman on the Justice for Nikki page?
There were people who would drive by Tyler's house just to kind of see what was going on, and they were seeing the same female that was outside of his home with Tyler. And then someone from the girl, her family members were also concerned because they've also found out that their sister had been staying at Tyler's home, and so that's kind of how we found out also as well, to confirm the story even more.